Chapter 4 The Calling to Serve. In October 2013, I walked away from my paramedic career. I was 23 and free. With a one-way ticket, I began 2014 in a new country on an undefined journey. I was in Whistler, Canada, fulfilling one of my life's wishes, a month of snowboarding. I was hitting the slopes first thing every morning for 30 days. I must have gotten fit as I was boarding almost 8 hours a day. Flying down those slopes, I felt so alive, so free, every day pushing for more, taking on more. I was very blessed on this trip. I'd co-created it with my good friend Kaylin, who had also said goodbye to her paramedic career. She had arrived a few weeks before and had already found some Aussie comrades to hit the slopes with. These guys were a lot more advanced than we were, so we really had to start pushing ourselves to keep up. There was so much freedom on this trip. Every day was unpredictable. I remember my first day boarding with the guys. I'd set out on my usual early morning runs by myself. I thought I was in for an easy day, but Kaylin had other plans. We met up with 3 Aussie blokes who were keen to get off the beaten track and out to some fresh powder snow. The terrain was epic. It was backcountry, with trees and snow up to our waists. There were barely any tracks here, which kind of had me wondering if this was a good idea. Barely keeping up, I made it through the day, finally getting the hang of soft powder snow and dodging trees at speed. When the snow got more compacted, we headed to the epic terrain park, where the massive man-made jumps had been created. Now this was not for the faint-hearted. These jumps were huge. The landing pad was about 10 meters from the jump, which meant if you did not hit the jump with enough speed, you would land in a ditch about 3 meters below the landing pad. I feared for my life on every jump, but still I kept at it, only just making the landing each time. I did eventually get the hang of flying through the air, but I still had my fair share of stacks. These 3 guys really knew where to find adventurous terrain. One bright and sunny day, they decided it would be a good idea to hike to some untouched slopes. This was not only in waist-deep snow, but it was very steep and treacherous terrain. It turns out it probably wasn't a good idea. The next day, we discovered that the slopes were a high-risk area for avalanches. Oops. Every day was an adventure. Some days we would hike across with our boards to a lookout for sunset beers. It really did feel like we were on top of the world. We may have also been slightly breaking the rules by drink boarding after the slopes were closed, but that only added to the sense of fun and freedom. We would get on our boards and make it down with just enough light to see the track. While I could have kept this up for a whole season, my bank account couldn't. I knew that I needed to get to Hawaii and Peru. Something was calling me, and I just knew inside of me it was time to embark on a spiritual journey. Destination Hawaii. Next dream, next destination, Hawaii. I found a traditional lomi teacher and was set to land and walk into a 3-day course. It felt so good to learn Hawaiian healing and philosophy from a teacher who carried an old lineage. It also frustrated me to see how much modern-day theory was put into it, taking me from heart to my head. While I learnt some great skills, I missed my teacher in Australia and realised I never actually needed to seek elsewhere. I had all I needed to grow and flourish as a healer back home. I knew, though, that if I was to practice a Hawaiian lineage, it was kind of important to experience the land, and for 3 weeks That's exactly what I did. In Maui, I heard the whales singing underwater, and for the first time ever, I got to snorkel with the turtles. In Honolulu, I adventured up mountains and into waterfalls after waterfalls, and I canoed to other tiny islands offshore. I also collected 2 powerful shamanic tools. At the time, I had no idea the power they held, but my travel to other countries would soon reveal them. I had bought a turtle necklace, which was made out of shark bone, and a wooden hand-carved tiki, said to be a warrior and protector. Up until this point in my life, the idea of spiritually protecting myself was kind of abstract. The deeper I ventured on this shamanic path, though, the more this became essential. I had thought that coming to Hawaii was going to be the beginning of my shamanic journey, learning from a traditional Lomi teacher. But I had much unravelling to do before I was ready. My quest to embark on this shamanic journey led me to my next destination, Peru. By now I had been travelling for over 3 months and had spent most of this time a little unwell. Within my first week of travel I had found myself with a sudden intense fever and unknown sickness as the clock ticked over to 2014. The whole time in the snow I lived with a cold which eventually progressed into a mild chest infection. Then on the main island of Hawaii I had suffered greatly from the sulphur in the air from the volcano. My body would experience much more intense illness as I moved further along this shamanic path. I soon learnt that death and rebirth through physical experience is all a part of it. An overnight plane trip got me into Los Angeles at 4 a.m. in the morning. Red-eyed and a little exhausted, I somehow managed to find my way, for only $1, to the center of Santa Monica. I had absolutely no knowledge of this famous city, but sometimes winging it can turn out for the best. Relying solely on directions from locals, I navigated my way to the heart of Santa Monica and magically stumbled across some lovely farmers markets, which was exactly what my body needed: fresh food. As I settled into the day, I remembered I knew someone who lived near Santa Monica. I had met a woman on the plane from Brisbane to Vancouver. We had spent some time adventuring in Vancouver and Whistler together. I sent her a message, and to my delight, to catch the sunset and share a meal together before I was back on to my next flight to Lima. It had already been an epic 36 hours with no sleep. Though I did get 2 hours sleep on the beach with some homeless people, by this stage I was not so excited about the life of a traveller. I was now on a 13-hour flight to Lima. This part of my trip was cruel and reminded me of how it felt coming off double night shifts as a paramedic, with next to no sleep. I arrived in Lima in the middle of the day. It was stinking hot, and I'd had a total of 2 hours sleep. I was almost delirious, having missed 2 whole nights of sleep and travelled across multiple time zones. I was relieved to find my driver, who took me to my hostel, driving like a true South American through typical South American traffic. Constant hooting horns, moto taxis darting between the traffic and traffic jams. While in Lima, I became increasingly unwell. I knew it was food poisoning now, but thought it strange that my only symptoms were intense bloating and upset tummy. Little did I know, the bacteria was multiplying in my body, preparing to take me in its grasp, bringing me to my first real shamanic initiation, touching death. Waking up in a cheap hostel, with 5 others sleeping around me, I was overtaken by sickness. I was profusely sweating, with fever similar to that I felt 3 months ago when the clock ticked over to midnight on the first day of the year. For hours I was in the throes of vomiting and diarrhea, feeling like I could die. I became delirious quickly. Not a single soul helped me, though there was nothing they could do. It went on, and it felt like there was no end in sight. The day passed and I began to keep some fluids down. Eventually I drifted to sleep, desperately hoping I would wake in the morning to see another day. Thankfully I did wake, only to discover I had less than 24 hours to get well enough to board a plane and get myself to the Amazon. I had thought I was going to the Amazon to be in the jungle. Little did I know, my reason for being here was not simply to see the place. I made a new friend in Whistler, and during my time there we kept running into each other through weird synchronicities. Hugo felt part plant, and there was something in me that kept wanting to walk the other way, but the synchronicities kept getting more intense. By email while I was in Hawaii, we discovered that not only were we going to be in Peru at the same time, but we were flying into the same city within days of each other, and both heading to the Amazon. Naturally, we arranged to stay at the same place. By this stage we had become good friends. We seemed vastly different, yet comfortable in each other's company. He'd come to the Amazon with one purpose in mind: to journey with the vine, ayahuasca. It's amazing what unfolds when you least expect it. I was open to the idea of journeying with a plant medicine, but I soon realized I didn't choose it, it chose me. As it turns out, we were staying in a remote community called San Pedro, which is also the name of another powerful plant medicine. There's another story about that, but let's get back to this vine. On the very first day, we asked the question, is there a shaman here that does aya ceremonies? They look at us with great discomfort and tell us they will think about it. Turns out we are lucky. They like us and trust us enough to invite the local shaman in to guide us on this journey. I thought that my journey with food poisoning was bad, but that was nothing compared to what was about to hit me with this plant medicine. We were taken to a little hut where the shaman had been preparing the space for us. He welcomed us in and we started the ceremony. After some singing in language, a large amount of smudging, and some blessings, aya was handed to me. I set my intentions to cleanse and connect. I drank down the foreign substance and settled my mind. Slowly the vine connected with me, first becoming heavy in my stomach. The faint visions then began as I became more deeply connected to my animals. First, the significance of the turtle being with me on this journey. Move slowly, take it in, and learn your lessons. Then I looked to my power animal and began running with the wild black stallion. But Aya stopped me. No, this is not what you are to work with now. Wait until you return home. That is when you can get busy with your work. Stay with the turtle, for you need to learn this ancient wisdom. I listened, and then, the most incredible vision of all, I saw a black phoenix rise from the ashes, but it did not take flight. Instead, it stood on the top of a high mountain, looking out to the horizon where a small slither of yellow light existed. The phoenix stood so strong, so silent, it was barely breathing. It stood strong and sure, waiting for the right moment to take flight, to spread its healing and magic to the world, to turn darkness into light. This phoenix was the symbol of my life mission, that which I have created. I now know of its potential and power, and of the difficult journey ahead. A journey where all my guides, strength, and resources need to come together to learn and grow, so this phoenix can take flight and spread healing and light to the world. Suddenly I am taken into unfamiliar territory. First I see patterns and symbols that are very unfamiliar to me. Then Aya becomes frustrated as my mind starts creating barriers. In her frustration she shows herself in human form. I get a glimpse of her power and beauty, with eyes that have no end and hair that connects through many worlds and realms. Now I see her and begin to understand her. She then takes me in her grasp and spins me out of my body just above my left side. She shows me my body as limp and lifeless and says, "See, it is just a body. It is just a body." Her lesson is clear. She shows me that spirit and body are separate. It is important for me to realize just how insignificant the body is. Self-image and the physical have no purpose. It is the soul that provides all you need. The soul is the most important resource you have. I am then taken back into my body and feel exhausted. I want to lie down, so I no longer need to support my body. The shaman's Zakaro begins to slow, and the ceremony comes to an end. The shaman cleanses me with the smoke and essences, but I know that this is just the beginning. I know Aya will take me again when I lay down to rest. We walk to our room. My senses are heightened and I struggle to walk as I am not fully present in my body. Now the deeper connection with my spirit brother Hugo begins. We say goodbye to our shaman, and on the physical plane, Hugo and I are left only with each other. We gaze up at the cloudy night sky and see the full moon. Hugo is connected to his plant world, feeding off the energy, and I am exhausted, forced to be in my body. I lay in bed, knowing that this unfamiliar, powerful plant is waiting to take me. I drift into another state, and Aya begins to take me to other worlds. I start to feel nauseous as she tosses me from one world to another. I only get a glimpse of each world, worlds that are unfamiliar to me. Despite being taken to these realms, I am constantly connecting to my body, where I hear the music Hugo is playing. I feel the familiar protective presence he has. Then it all stops, as if I have fallen into a deep sleep. But this is not sleep. This is another presence taking over my body. A demon presence that has come from deep inside me. All my negative energies from the past that had not been released are now showing itself in demon form. This demon moves differently. I find myself purging into the toilet almost hissing. My body is not my body, but instead some evil creature with snakes on my head as if it is hair. I'm pushed to the basin and forced to wash my hands. Then I'm forced back to my bed with a powerful shaman telling me, the real me, to take hold of the tiki. His presence is enough to make me aware of my body, and I grasp my small wooden tiki, which is glowing with yellow light. I immediately hold it to my chest, and the demon begins to leave my body. I begin to realize the presence of guides, ancient all-knowing guides, but Aya still has me in her grasp, and she attempts to communicate with me in voice. I cannot understand, for the sounds are distorted and her energy is unfamiliar to me. The psychedelic colors begin to intensify and I find myself in another world. I see other beings sitting with me, but they are not from this world. I feel out of place, as they are all tripping on hallucinogens. I want to get out, as I feel the sickness in my stomach. These are not my people, and this is not my world. I continue to come in and out of my body, and I begin to feel that Hugo's music is guiding me. I start to see his wisdom of this plant. Then I realize the presence of powerful shamanic guides, as they help to navigate me out of the unfamiliar worlds and states. They connect me to the spirits of others who have journeyed with Aya tonight. I see their flickering eyes as they glimmer with new life and deeper wisdom. Here we are nurtured by earth angels who understand our journeys and the power of Aya. I then sense powerful shaman spirits who are looking over us, healing those who have faced terrifying experiences. I finally feel completely safe and supported. I made it through all the unfamiliar worlds and states and faced my demons. Now I am free to play and dance with all those who have journeyed with Aya tonight. This play is a part of our healing. Once Spirit had nurtured me back into health and happiness, I was free to roam the spirit world. My own spirit guides navigate me to a place where I could connect to my spirit friends on earth. This was a part of my healing, as now I was able to frolic and play with my earth spirits in the spirit world, where barriers, human insecurities and fear could not interfere. I began to play with new and old friends and family. Joy fills my whole being as I see each familiar soul dancing free of burden. I was able to connect with my teachers and show them my true beaming spirit. Wise and humble, they would smile with joy. I ended my journey by connecting two souls who on earth were filled with trauma, defeated by the earth world. I was finally able to see their spirits beaming with joy, with no burdens and no barriers. I wanted to continue to play and frolic with these spirits, but the shaman guides hushed us. It is time to rest. I began to drift back into my body, and I entered into a light slumber. Aware of my surroundings and waiting for the light, I knew once the sun began to rise, all darkness would disappear, and I would be one with my body and the earth once again. That morning after the sun had risen, I began to feel back into my new self. Such transformation and darkness had occurred, and I was left wondering, how could I process and learn from this? I now understood that one soul can be in so many places at once, present in many other realms. I now knew what it was like to face demons, to feel the presence of other guides, to be out of my body and dancing with other spirits. I now knew what it was like to communicate with other spirits. I had deepened my understanding of shamanism, and I had come to know the power of Aya. A home away from home. Once I had recovered from my food poisoning, diarrhea and Aya journey, I began to accept that I was in the midst of a long initiation into becoming a shaman and a healer. It was like shards of myself were falling away. My paramedic identity, my teenage identity, all of it was falling off. Each place I travelled, I would meet new people, and I would find or feel like a new person. My next destination was going to be my first home away from home, and another big journey of initiation. I arrived in Cusco into a community of healers, and of course this place was called the Healing House. I am quickly overcome by the depth of awareness and wisdom of these people. It's like they can see right through me. I cannot hide myself. I must be myself. It's confronting, and probably quite late in my life to have such a dilemma as this. I soon learned to be honest, to speak truly, and not to hide. I grow immensely in my first 6 weeks here, and it's not just the people that grow me. It's another powerful plant medicine, Wachuma. In my first trip to Peru, I journeyed with San Pedro, also known as Wachuma, a total of 4 times over the space of 4 weeks. All these ceremonies were held in the Andes, just near Cusco. Wachuma is considered a masculine plant and is typically taken by the day. It's best to walk when under the influence of this medicine, as it allows the body to better integrate the journey and the information. These ceremonies were held in an area where there were many ruins. The energy was powerful. as these places held so much sacred history. We started the day with a hike into the mountains, followed by the ceremony and drinking. It took a while for it to affect me, as it was nice and gradual. I felt my senses get stronger, and I began to feel at one with the earth. I felt love for my tribe who I drank with, as we sang, laughed, explored, and nurtured each other together. As we hiked deeper into the mountains, I became connected to the tribal shaman I had been many lifetimes ago, when man first walked this earth. This was a time when we truly understood the connection between all living things, as well as the connection to the divine. I became an observer. I watched my tribe play and joke like kids. I loved it. They were so happy, so joyful. I became the pacer as I felt like an ancient tribal man. The most glorious moment was on top of a high, steep rock overlooking the land. It felt so familiar, the gum trees, the storm coming in. I felt Australia. Then the rain came upon us, and we made our way to shelter. At this point in time I realized how effectively I was keeping myself warm, and how I felt no pain in my bare feet. Each step was in harmony with the earth, and I was aware of every step. Throughout the entire day, I felt content being quiet, for I was feeling the wisdom of my ancient tribal life and a complete connection to every living thing around me. For the trees moved in time, even the rocks would move. Colours appeared brighter, and many things appeared to have symbols in them. The rocks had faces that told stories of ancient times. Then there was the hike back down to the city, the literal coming down. I felt like I could carry this quiet confidence and connection to my inner wisdom into the next stage of my life. Now that I'm back in the healing house, I guess only time will tell. For now, the biggest challenge I face is being in the presence of other great healers. Now I must learn to hold my own space and maintain my integrity. The end of the road. So many dreams have come true in these 6 months of travel. 32 days of snowboarding in Whistler, volunteering at an animal refuge with monkeys, mountain biking with the Death Road in Bolivia, Machu Picchu, as well as many intense spiritual experiences in Peru. I am so grateful for all I have seen and done, but the most significant experiences have been in my shamanic journeys. In my final month in Peru, I have journeyed with plant medicines, experienced many ceremonies, and been initiated in the powerful monarchy rites of the Andean people. Had several swaps with healing practitioners, massage for donation at an incredible place in Cusco, experienced many healings with incredible shamans, and learnt of plant medicines through a herbal workshop. I am so grateful for my incredible teachers and so blessed to have some amazing new inspiring friends in my life. All these experiences have allowed me to grow into the person I only dreamed to be. While I am sad to be near the end of an incredible, empowering journey, I cannot wait to live out my dreams back in Australia. Finally, I will be able to reach out to many teenagers through counselling and many other means. There are no limits, for what we believe to be true and achievable is possible. I have tested this many times, and it keeps ringing true to me. It is time to step out of our limiting thought patterns and into a light of a new age.